I have to share the screen. I will focus on the innovation in our program, which we developed with my colleagues of preschool education. I have to skip some points because of time. But first of all, I would like to focus on the preliminary work which caused the innovation in our program, our activity book, because it was not the new cooperation with my colleague. We created another activity book several years ago, but this time it was a whole new approach for me, and the source of this new approach was a survey on a study on bilingual preschools in European countries. It is based on the study in 4 countries in Germany, Belgium, Sweden, and Great Britain. And it's one of the prolonged and profound studies in this area on bilingual preschool education. More than 400 children were enrolled in this study, and 11 kindergartens, 60 researchers, and the observations were made by the researcher assistants during 2 years on a weekly basis, one whole day per week. And they observed both the acquisition of L1 and L2 during this process. The main questions which interested me and my colleague were who should provide language input in these bilingual preschools, how should this input be used to bring most effective results, and how much input is useful in L2 in the kindergarten. The main findings of this survey were that the best practice example shows that one person, one language separation is the most convenient approach in this area. All those kindergarten had 2 teachers, one L2 teacher and one L1 teacher. There were no classical language lessons. It was mostly immersion or clear approach in this kindergarten. And L2 teachers did nothing different from L1 teachers. This was the most innovative approach for us. That these teachers simply did everything in a different language. So language was only the means of child's development. And this was new for me and for our work, because in our previous work we had topics which were, the leading part was language. We had topics which had approximate number of words, phrases, so language system should be learned through this old program. But here, what we gained from this survey was that the most important issue is to communicate in a natural way with children, but the most challenging is how to contextualize and to get or provide children visual aids to enable easy understanding for children in real communication. They are concerned that this could lead to the double semilingualism. Was not true according to the study, because even in cases when L2 input was up to 70% and L1 30%, it didn't have a negative impact on linguistic development of children in L1. On the contrary, the children had positive results of both languages. Due to the new approach, the high competence of teachers is needed because it's easy to learn some words, but it's the low competence of a child, and both low competence of the teacher is needed in this case. I mean, the classical way of learning, teaching words, phrases, and so on. But it's much more high competence to realize interaction in certain contexts, in producing morphosyntactic constructions. This is where we need higher competences of teachers. So the most challenge even in our project was the competence of teachers, how to shift to this classical approach of teaching words to real communication, but this communication should be adjusted to the children's needs and their individual needs. And that the silent phase, what the children have, not only in L2 but even in L1 when they are growing and acquiring their mother tongue, that this is the normal state of what they need in real communication with a new teacher in L2. This was what we took for our concept, that the natural linguistic environment and the authentic communication situations should be provided to the preschool children in our environment, our case. It was very interesting to see the similarities in general preschool child development. My colleague is one of the authors of preschool education standards in Georgia. So the approach what they have in this methodology, that the children in this age, 5-6 years old children, have very different abilities in different areas, in physical development, emotional, cognitive, and even linguistic development in their mother tongue. And this was very interesting to implement L2 acquisition in this direction. Because the communities where our volunteer teachers worked, they were also very different linguistically, with their social, cultural background, and with previous knowledge of L1 and L2. So we created this activity book with methodological aid for teachers with 80 thematic topics, but these topics are only for orientation. Because if the child is the center of the whole process, child's interests should be followed, so the teacher should plan I would say topics, the activities due to their interests. And the interests are mostly how something is done, how can birds fly, for example, or Milky Way, and so on. In this age, 5-6-year-olds children, they have different interests, but the teacher should see the most interest and plan the 2 weeks thematic entity due to this interest. That's why the topics here are only for orientation. And the goal of each topic is socio-emotional and cognitive development of children in different areas, physical, emotional, cognitive, and so on. And language too is only the means to help this development, to follow children's abilities, children's interests. That's why L2 was integrated as the means to achieve this goal, and we offered 3 levels of communication due to children's previous knowledge. So these topics of orientation contain for each activity possible phrases to provide teachers the language sensibilization skills so that they know how to communicate in different situations with different childs. And this was also new for me because in language lesson we were oriented on the medium level of the pupils, and in this case, as a preschool education methodology has the individual approach to each child. That's why we tried to adjust L2 acquisition techniques to this approach. The challenges were there's no strict instructions. This is no school book, so to say. That's why the teachers have vast space for improvisation, and this requires much more higher proficiency, and this was the main change. That's why during the pilot project, only one volunteer teacher could meet these requirements, and this teacher had the previous university education in GS of Georgia as a second language acquisition. This project was a pilot project by the Ministry of Science and Education, which Mrs. Tabatadze was talking about, but this one was a small part of that big project. So it was piloted in 2 regions with the settlement of Armenians and Azerbaijanis, and not only target groups of children were different with their social and cultural background, but also the bilingual volunteer teachers were different because we had some who were ethnic Azerbaijanis or ethnic Armenians with pretty good knowledge of Georgian. But we had also Georgian-speaking teachers who had no or very poor knowledge of the mother tongue of the children. That's why they had different problems in their this process and different point of views on this process as well. The monolingual teachers said that it's very hard to get this language sensibility and to know how to communicate with children who don't know any word in Georgian. The bilingual teachers saw the challenge in monolingual conversation because they, for them it was hard to communicate without translation. Or they could communicate without translation, but as the children know that they know both languages, it was unnatural for them not to communicate in their mother language. And in this case, the solution was puppet. So the children knew that they were bilingual, but when they had the puppet was always talking in Georgian. And for Georgian-speaking teachers, we had to work in a more profound way to gain this language sensibilization, but the pilot project acknowledged it wasn't enough for this. Those teachers need more profound education for that to manage this process and gain better results. I know we have no time. Okay. As a conclusion, I have to mention the good parts of this pilot project. It brought improved cooperation with the local teachers, between the Georgian-speaking volunteer teachers and monolingual teachers. The environment, kindergarten environment was modernized and adjusted to the targets of the project. The provided more realistic situations and more natural communication with children. They used less translation in their everyday communication. And the real language use was trained, so to say, or acquired by the children. And the unexpected result was that the children used words and phrases that they did not learn. It was a surprise for teachers because when they communicate in Georgian, they used phrases which they did not intend to use when they planned these sequences, but they had to use them. It was naturally, and exactly those phrases and words were acquired by the children to surprise all these teachers. Okay, thank you very much.